Hello, you're watching A News Morning from Baku. I'm Baklava, and let's see the headlines. U.S. President Joe Biden calls for tougher gun control laws after Wisconsin school shooting at Abundant Life Christian School. Rescue workers race against time to reach survivors of tropical storm in Mayotte. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump says deal needed to stop Ukraine war and will talk to Putin and Zelensky. A teenage student opened fire at the Christian school in the U.S. state of Wisconsin. The incident resulted in the death of 3 people, including the suspected shooter. Detectives talked with family members and searched the home as they worked to determine a motive.
In the latest shooting to shake a U.S. campus, the suspect, a teenage student, killed a fellow student and a teacher at the Wisconsin school before being found dead at the scene. The incident, which took place at Abundant Life Christian School in the state capital of Madison, injured more than 6 people, including children.
At this time, we're still working on a motive, trying to determine why this happened. We know that there is some information that may be circulating about the shooter. I cannot, at this time, formally tell you the age or gender or name of the shooter. We do not want to compromise any part of the investigation.
The institution, which provides education from preschool to 12th grade, is a private school with an enrollment of 400 students. In recent years, gun control and school safety have become major political and social issues in the United States, as the number of school shootings has been increasing.
We always send prayers. We always send thoughts. And then when are we going to stop doing that? This is not okay. If your kids are at school, they are not okay. If they are at church, they are not okay. If they are outside, elsewhere, they are not okay. Where are they going to be safe?
The epidemic of shootings has impacted both public and private schools in urban, suburban, and rural communities. U.S. President Joe Biden offered his condolences to the victims of a school shooting in Wisconsin and urged Congress to pass tougher gun control laws.
In Mayotte, rescuers are fighting against time as hundreds are feared dead after tropical storm struck the archipelago. Territory's residents and aid organizations are facing significant challenges. As France works to support its poorest region through this crisis, the full recovery will likely take time.
Cyclone Chido, which was the strongest to hit the Indian Ocean islands in nearly a century, caused widespread destruction in Mayotte. Emergency workers are currently scrambling to find survivors and clear blocked roads. Despite their efforts, large areas remain inaccessible, complicating relief work. The disaster has left the island in a state of shock. French Interior Minister Bruno Retailleau arrived to the island to assess the situation, acknowledging that it would take days to determine the true scale of the disaster. The French Interior Ministry stated that the death toll is difficult to estimate at this stage, but several hundred, possibly even thousands, are feared dead.
Without a doubt, we have to start thinking about reconstruction very quickly. We are, of course, still in an emergency, but we must very quickly plan for reconstruction.
As the region battles the aftermath, humanitarian aid has begun to arrive. The Red Cross dispatched an initial shipment of 30 tons of emergency supplies, including tools, showels, blankets, solar lamps and hygiene kits. However, the logistics of delivering aid are complex due to the damaged infrastructure.
Fortunately, we have 250 Red Cross workers on the ground, 150 staff and 100 volunteers. These people have also been shocked by what happened. Some have lost everything, including our local director, the territorial director of the Red Cross, who lost his house. So these people need to be able to get back on their feet on a family level so that they can go back and help people and resume activities that will help people.
Local authorities reported widespread destruction, with makeshift houses destroyed and boats overturned. Key infrastructure, including government buildings and a hospital, also sustained significant damage. The cyclone's powerful winds and torrential rains uprooted coconut trees and caused severe flooding. Cyclone Chido has further strained the already fragile living conditions in the island, making recovery efforts all the more urgent.
The United Nations Security Council convened to discuss the escalating humanitarian crisis in Ukraine, where civilians continue to suffer from intensified Russian attacks. UN officials warned of rising casualties, a devastation of infrastructure, and the deepening humanitarian crisis as winter sets in.
Briefing the Security Council, UN top humanitarian official Lisa Dalton warned that civilians in Ukraine are bearing the brunt of escalating Russian attacks, with casualties rising sharply.
Dozens of civilians have been killed in recent attacks in the regions of Zaporizhia, Donetsk, Kharkiv, Kherson, joining the thousands whose lives have already been claimed by this brutal war. Last month, long-range weapons killed 65 civilians and injured 372 across 11 regions of Ukraine, double the number of October.
Dalton reported that, according to UNDP, more than 60% of energy facilities are damaged, leaving millions without utilities as winter approaches. The conflict also hampers humanitarian access, with 1.5 million civilians in territories under Russian control cut off from aid.
We're extremely concerned about the plight of an estimated 1.5 million civilians in need of support in the parts of the regions of Donetsk, Kherson, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, under Russian Federation occupation. We remain unable to reach these people at any adequate scale.
In response, Russia's permanent representative to the United Nations criticized Ukraine for rejecting a ceasefire and prisoner exchange while accusing its leadership of prolonging the crisis.
The
Ukrainian leadership past its expiration date doesn't want to resolve the situation. They repudiated Hungary's proposal to introduce a Christmas ceasefire and an exchange of prisoners. The Zelensky regime once again categorically rejected to take over the 600 servicemen who have been in Russia for more than a year.
Ukraine's permanent representative fired back, highlighting recent strikes in Zaporizhia, where a guided aerial bomb killed 11 people, including 2 children. He also condemned Russia's relentless attacks on energy facilities.
President, last Friday's strike was the 12th carried out by Russia against our energy infrastructure in 2024 alone. For these strikes, Russia used about 1,100 missiles, both cruise and ballistic ones. I reiterate, this is the number of missiles launched against energy facilities only.
As the Security Council deliberates, the war in Ukraine shows no signs of abating. With winter approaching, the humanitarian crisis deepens, leaving millions at risk as calls for ceasefires and peace remain unanswered.
President-elect Donald Trump has expressed his concerns about the ongoing war in Ukraine, pledging to speak with both Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to help bring the conflict to an end. Speaking at the news conference at his Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach, Florida, Trump called for an immediate halt to the violence. Trump noted that much of the disputed land is in ruins and would take a century to rebuild.
Everyone's being killed. It's the worst carnage that this world has seen since World War II. I've had pictures of fields where bodies are lying on top of bodies. Looks like the old pictures of the Civil War, where just bodies are all over. Just if you saw those pictures, you'd feel more strongly about it. It's got to stop. And we're trying to get it to stop. Well, we're gonna see. We're going to be talking. We'll be talking to President Putin, and we'll be talking to the representatives, Zelensky and representatives from Ukraine. We got to stop it. It's carnage.
The president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, will decide when and under what conditions to negotiate, with President Biden supporting that decision until the end of his term, U.S. National Security Council Coordinator John Kirby said. Responding to comments from President-elect Donald Trump, who advocates for negotiations to end the war, Kirby emphasized the principle, nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. He reiterated that Zelensky, elected by the Ukrainian people, has the authority to determine the timing and terms of talks. He added that the Biden administration remains committed to Ukraine's military success, noting Russia's reliance on North Korean weapons and its need for body bags for fallen soldiers. During the winter season, families in Gaza face extreme cold weather, relying on limited resources to stay warm, as the shelters offer little protection against the elements.
The freezing internally displaced people in Deir al-Balah have set up their tents. Families work intensively to save their belongings and repair makeshift shelters damaged by strong winds and rainwater. Approximately 1.9 million displaced people are facing a significant crisis. Many shelters, made from cloth or plastic sheeting, offer inadequate protection against harsh weather conditions, leaving families vulnerable. Children in central Gaza gather blankets, pieces of wood, or tree branches to build fires, desperately trying to keep warm amid the freezing temperatures.
We once lived safely and warmly in our homes, but now we live in tents exposed to the cold and rain. There are no blankets, no covers to protect us. We have nothing over our heads, and even the tents are torn.
It's freezing and raining. Look at my child. He's completely soaked. Rainwater is leaking into the tent from everywhere. I've placed this steam box here to collect the water. Tonight especially was extremely cold. In response to the crisis, UNICEF is providing blankets, tents, and warm clothing to those affected in the Gaza Strip.
To Syria now, where during a meeting with the country's de facto leader Ahmad al-Sharam in Damascus, the UN Syria envoy urged an inclusive transition based on a 9-year-old Security Council resolution. That's according to Geir Pedersen's office. Syria's ruling General Command, in a separate statement about the meeting with the UN's Geir Pedersen, said they had discussed the need to review Security Council Resolution 2254, saying it needed to be updated to suit the new reality. Pedersen earlier expressed hopes that lifting sanctions on Syria could support quick economic recovery. The European Union takes its first step toward direct engagement with Syria's new government. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas says the bloc's top diplomat for Syria will travel to Damascus for talks with the new leadership.
EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas' statement signals a potential shift in the EU's approach to the region, marking a more direct engagement with Syria's government.
I've also tasked European top diplomat in Syria to go to Damascus to make the contacts with the new government and people there. So we will also discuss today in the Foreign Affairs Council how we engage with the new leadership of Syria and on what level we engage with the new leadership. And of course, what more steps are we willing to take if we see that Syria goes to the right direction.
The move comes amidst ongoing concerns about Syria's future and the actions of its new leadership. Over the weekend, representatives from the EU, US, UK, UN and Arab nations gathered in Agaba, Jordan, where they signed a joint declaration on Syria. The declaration calls for the protection of human rights, including the rights of women and minorities, while expressing full support for Syria's unity, territorial integrity and sovereignty. EU heads of state and government are set to discuss the situation in Syria further at the upcoming European Council meeting on the 19th of December.
Amid Syria's shifting political landscape, a former Syrian soldier seeking asylum in the Netherlands fears deportation to the country where defectors may face deadly consequences. As Europe tightens immigration policies, tens of thousands of Syrian asylum claims remain in limbo.
Former soldier in the Syrian government army, Ahmad Masri, who fled Syria in 2017 and arrived in the Netherlands in 2023, is studying English while awaiting news on his asylum status.
They execute to people who were working with X-regime. So how can we go back again to Syria? For example, if I go back, maybe they will kill me. Not maybe, a big chance. I have a big chance for kill me because they cannot accept. Again, we don't treat with deal people. We don't treat with automated people. We don't. We deal with barbar people. You know. Who will decide Syria is a safe country? I advise him. And maybe I suggest him, go to Syria, then you can decide if Syria is safe or not. Because Syria now, after the overthrow the regime, is a big mess. There is a lot of big mess over there, big mess. Then a lot of terrorist groups. Over there, there's no strong system, strong regime. So people live like, how can we tell you, like mafia over there.
Last week, the Dutch government, along with other European nations, suspended asylum applications from Syrians after rebels seized the Syrian capital and President Bashar al-Assad fled to Russia. This decision impacts tens of thousands of pending claims and reflects Europe's shifting stance on immigration, fueled by the rise of right-wing parties. Far-right leader Geert Wilders has called for Syrians to be sent back, further complicating Masri's hope for a work permit if granted asylum.
Canada's Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland resigned unexpectedly, citing policy disagreements with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau over increased spending. Freeland's departure just before presenting a full economic update leaves Trudeau without a key ally ahead of a likely challenging election. Trudeau appointed Dominique LeBlanc, a close friend and public safety minister, as Freeland's replacement. LeBlanc emphasized addressing Canadians' cost of living and border security in cooperation with Trump.
She's contributed to the public policy life of our country in an exemplary way. And I look forward now to assuming the responsibility of being Minister of Finance, talking to my colleagues as we prepare for what will be a 2025 budget. And I have a lot of confidence in the decisions our government, our cabinet has made, but will obviously do my job as Minister of Finance over the coming months.
Germany faces a pivotal moment after Chancellor Olaf Scholz lost a parliamentary confidence vote that paves the way for early elections. The vote follows the collapse of his coalition government 2 months ago, leaving his administration without a majority.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has lost the parliamentary confidence vote following the collapse of his coalition government 2 months ago. The vote was initiated by Scholz himself to dissolve parliament and call for new elections after the Free Democratic Party exited the three-party coalition in November, leaving Scholz to lead a minority government. During the debate, Scholz framed the upcoming election as a decision on Germany's future course, highlighting investment priorities. CDU leader Friedrich Merz criticized Scholz's economic policies and called for fiscal restraints. Germany's political system is currently fragmented, with newer parties gaining influence. The election is expected to reshape the country's parliamentary composition as parties prepare for coalition negotiations.
A rescue team saved an injured cave explorer in the Italian Alps. On Monday, the 32-year-old speleologist Ottavia Piana remained trapped in the Bueno Fontana cave near Bergamo. Piana fell 5 meters down into an isolated section of the cave, fracturing her legs, chest and face. Rescue teams tried to widen 100 meters of the tight passages to bring her to safety. About 100 rescuers from the National Alpine Rescue participated in the operation, where the medical team stabilized her with oxygen, medicine and a fan in the humid 8 degrees Celsius environment. Farmers in Spain staged a protest against a trade agreement between the European Union and Latin American countries known as the EU Mercosur deal. They worry large imports from Latin American countries could create unfair competition within the EU.
Farmers calling for fairness. Hundreds of farmers gathered in Spain's capital, Madrid, to voice their concerns over the recently agreed EU Mercosur deal. These farmers claim the agreement will create inequality, as it will allow for massive imports from Latin America to compete with the local produce in Europe.
We have no choice but to go out and fight a little bit, because if we don't, in the end we'll have to start working on something else, because this won't be profitable.
With the Mercosur agreement that is going to be reached, all products will be able to enter without any limitations. As farmers and stock breeders, we have a lot of restrictions so that the consumer has a guarantee, and it turns out that the ministry neither defends farmers from stock breeders, nor does it defend consumers.
The agreement between the EU and Latin America includes Brazil, Argentina, Bolivia, Paraguay and Uruguay, and could allow up to 99,000 tons of beef and up to 1 million tons of maize, among others, to be imported into Europe. The deal was announced by the European Commission's President, Ursula von der Leyen, who says it will create opportunities within Europe.
Let me address my fellow Europeans. This agreement is a win for Europe. 60,000 companies are exporting today to Mercosur, 30,000 of them small and medium enterprises. They benefit from reduced tariffs, simpler custom procedures, and preferential access to some critical raw materials. This will create huge business opportunities.
The trade deal, however, is just the start of a lengthy process. It still needs to be legalized, translated, and then approved by member nations, and could even be blocked, with France being strongly against the deal.
Bakers and designers showcased their creativity in Stockholm during the annual Gingerbread House competition at the Arte Museum. The event featured intricate designs with many entries focusing on the theme of comeback.
The festive competition at Stockholm Artes Museum brought together a diverse range of gingerbread creations. Visitors admired a variety of creative designs, from charming gingerbread cottages to intricate replicas of iconic landmarks, such as Willy Wonka's chocolate factory and an Oasis concert. The public flocked to the museum, capturing images of the colorful edible structures. Voters chose a miniature version of Willy Wonka's chocolate factory as the People's Choice winner. The detailed structure adorned with candy and icing earned the most votes from museum visitors.
It's a very special exhibition for us. It's been here since 1990. We had it 32 times. Last year we were closed to rebuild Arctes, and now we have reopened the museum. And it's a very special exhibition because it gives everyone the possibility to build their own home.
I mean, making gingerbread houses is like a very strong Swedish tradition. Everybody does it, more or less. But I guess, like most people, maybe they buy like the ready-made houses and not like spend the time decorating it. So, I mean, this is maybe a bit more advanced what all these people did for this competition. But it's definitely a strong Swedish tradition. And like people at work would ask, like, what's the recipe for the dough that you use to the
The 32nd edition of this event remains a beloved holiday tradition in Sweden, uniting the community to celebrate creativity, the Christmas spirit, and the art of gingerbread craftsmanship.
The 13th annual Baklava festival in Baku showcased the enduring friendship between Turkey and Azerbaijan, with the spotlight on the world-renowned Turkish baklava. Annual Baklava Festival in Baku, organized by the Baklava and Dessert Producers Association, brought together dignitaries, culinary experts and dessert lovers from both nations. Representatives from the Turkish embassy in Baku and members of the Baghdad joined Azerbaijani citizens in celebrating this cultural event. Turkey was represented by a delegation of 100 participants, including leading baklava producers, who showcased 60 unique Turkish desserts. Highlights included pistachio, walnut, mussel, and cold baklava varieties that captivated attendees. Azerbaijan introduced 10 distinctive dessert varieties, including its iconic Baku, Gebele, and Sheki baklava, offering a glimpse into the nation's rich culinary traditions. The Baklava Festival underscored the importance of preserving and celebrating the shared cultural heritage of Turkey and Azerbaijan. By introducing their desserts to an international audience, the event reinforced the strong ties between the two nations. Well, that's all we have for this hour. You can also get the latest news and headlines around the clock on our website, that is anews.tv. Thank you for watching, and also we wish you a good day ahead.